Item 4 is a debate by individual members under Standing Order 11.21, and I call Mick Antoniw to move the motion.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. May I starting declare an interest as a member of the GMB Trade Union and the Musicians Union Trade Union as listed in the Register of Interests. At a 1979 election rally, Margaret Thatcher said the following: "As you well know, for over 100 years, ever since Disraeli's day, since before the Labour Party existed, it has been the belief of the Conservative Party that the law should not only permit, but it should assist the trade unions to carry out their legitimate function of protecting their members." Now, I've never been a fan of Thatcherite policies. She destroyed much of our industry. She decimated the coal industry, allowed profitable mines to be closed for politically vindictive reasons, and she left a legacy of politics based on greed and self-interest. However, despite this, she had the qualities of statesmanship and leadership that are now so missing in a Conservative Party that is far more vindictive and class-ridden than was ever the case during the Thatcher years. A party that, under the guise of helping working families, is attacking low-paid workers, destroying the public sector, and increasing poverty and inequality. Even she would never have supported this trades union bill and would have seen it as a step too far. An act which puts Tory party interests over the interests of the country and which attacks the very basis of our democratic system and fundamental rights. The bill is, in my view, an unwarranted and ideological attack on the internationally established rights of trade unions in this country. It has been condemned by Amnesty International. It has been condemned by the civil liberties organisation Liberty, and it's been condemned by the British Institute for Human Rights, who jointly have stated, taken together, the unprecedented measures in the bill would hamper people's basic rights to protest and shift even more power from the employee to the employer. It is hard to see the aim of the bill as anything but seeking to undermine the rights of all working people. Even the independent body appointed by the government to scrutinise regulatory proposals has slammed the government's impact assessment of the bill's proposals as not fit for purpose. The bill includes a series of proposals relating to turnouts in strike ballots, which far exceed the turnouts required to elect councillors, MPs and assembly members. The bill imposes extensive bureaucratic red tape and costs on trade unions who will become subject to a new financial levy. The bill requires employers to report on resources allocated for facility time in the public sector and in organisations which provide public services. Yes, I will take an intervention.
Janet Finch-Saunders.
Oh, and thank you for taking the intervention. If this bill is so wrong, why is there more than half of your members here missing from this debate today?
I'll treat that with the contempt which it actually deserves. Right. The net effect of all this is to reduce the ability of unions to represent their members at work effectively, to negotiate on pay, health and safety, and terms and conditions of work, and limit access to learning and skills. If this wasn't enough, this anti-freedom, anti-democratic bill gives the government the power to interfere in individual contracts of employment and collective agreements which provide for facility time. In a move that tramples on any notion of partnership working, the bill will change the law and allow and effectively encourage employers to bring in agency workers as strike breakers, irrespective of the consequence for industrial relations and health and safety. And so much for the Tory party's claim of being on the side of hard-working people. This bill shatters that illusion. And finally, the bill will subject trade union protest and picketing to levels of state and police scrutiny that go far beyond what is fair and acceptable in a modern democracy. I worked as a trade union solicitor for 30 years. I've never seen a dispute where workers have wanted to go on strike, and in the past 20 years, the level of strikes has reduced to an all-time low. Workers and their unions know and understand the global pressures that exist today on companies. And Wales, a country previously renowned for its militancy, is increasingly recognised for the development of partnership working. All the accepted evidence shows that where there are recognised trade unions and where there is an effective industrial partnership between workers and employers, a win-win situation results. Workplaces are safer with less accidents and less illness. Workers' pay and terms and conditions are better and the businesses are more productive and successful. Even Margaret Thatcher recognised when she said in 1997 that British industry couldn't prosper unless management and unions worked together in partnership. Yet the right to strike, to withdraw labour is a fundamental right of workers to counter the unregulated power of employers. And I've always believed that you can measure the strength of democracy in any country in the world by how free its trade unions are. You can take any country in the world, and the more freedom given to trade unions, the freer that country is. The government will claim that the bill is about setting reasonable ballot thresholds. They make no comment on the massive technical complications that exist, even under existing legislation, to holding ballots, identifying the groups to be balloted, contacting them and so on. And they ignore every request by trade unions to allow e-balloting. The General Secretary of Unite has said there could well be agreement on this issue if the government were to allow e-balloting. Of course, the Prime Minister refuses, arguing it is not sufficiently secure, whilst at the same time the Tory party just having selected Zach Goldsmith as their London mayoral candidate by e-ballot. The only conclusion you can draw is that this legislation has nothing to do with balloting thresholds or boosting workplace democracy, but it is about chaining working people, gagging trade unionism, and restricting democratic protest. You need only look at the bizarre and oppressive proposals in respect of trade union protest and picketing. Contrary to the rulings of the ILO's Freedom of Association Committee and various articles of the European Convention on Human Rights, the bill, amongst many other legal obligations, would require pickets to appoint a picket supervisor to give that person's name and address to the police and to provide a letter of authority and to be present or contactable while the picketing is taking place and to wear a badge or armband. We can be thankful, I guess, that trade unionists going about their lawful activities won't yet be required to wear a red triangle. The government is even considering proposals which would require unions to report on plans to run Twitter or Facebook accounts and suggest that unions will have to report in advance on the likely content of any protest website. What country are we living in? Do we really want our police to emulate the notorious Stasi? Do we want to become a new Soviet Union which also banned free trade unions? Or are we to become, like as one Tory MP described the proposals, more in keeping with Franco's Spain? In Wales, we can be justifiably proud of our good and constructive industrial relations. The proposals can only undermine what we have achieved in Wales and what has been achieved in many other parts of the United Kingdom. The proposals also intrude into our Welsh jurisdiction and devolve powers. As the First Minister said on the 9th of November, the proposals will lead to a more confrontational relationship between employers and workers and ultimately undermine rather than support public services. The UK government says the bill only relates to non-devolved matters, but that cannot, with any reasonable reading of the proposals, be true. Significant elements of the bill specifically refer to public services, which are unquestionably devolved in Wales. This is a destructive and unnecessary piece of legislation. It undermines good industrial relations. It is authoritarian and vindictive and undermines civil liberties and long-established principles of freedom of association. I hope the bill is defeated. I do not want to see this oppressive bill enacted in any part of the United Kingdom. I do not want to see it undermine work that has been done over decades to build progressive, cooperative industrial relations in Wales And in addition, I impose the intention of this bill to intrude on the devolved responsibilities of this Assembly. We do not need this law in Wales, and we do not want this law in Wales, and I know we will do all we can to support all those who oppose this bill, and if necessary to challenge its legitimacy in the Supreme Court. I hope the Welsh Conservatives will have the integrity, decency and independence of thought and principle and stand up for Wales and our democratic freedoms by supporting